I wasn't religious growing up. I was raised in a family that was not active in church at all. And I remember my dad would never let people in. If they were wearing a white shirt and tie, they were coming from church and he would never let them in. And then one morning, I was asleep and my dad opened the door for two of my friends. And they were Jeff and Bruce. And they showed up in my bedroom and woke me up one Sunday morning. I said, "What are you guys doing here?" And, "Well, we come to get you to go to church." And I said, "I don't have any clothes for church." And one of them grabbed a pair of jeans, another one grabbed a shirt and said, "Look, we got some clothes for you to wear. We want you to come to church." And I'm old enough and understand that they didn't do that under their own volition, so to speak, if that's a word. They did that because concerning adults had said, "Somebody go and get Todd. His family's going through a rough time right now." My parents were going through a divorce and they couldn't really show their love towards the kids because they were so tied up in this nasty experience in their life. And so I went to church and I felt this incredible love that I had never really felt before. And I know that some very, very strong, loving adults put those boys up to coming to my house to get me to come to church. And I haven't looked back. To this day, I'm active in church as a result of that. I've got one, her name's Barbara. She was Jeff, one of the kids that came to my house that morning, his mom. I was always, when I played at her house, at their house, she was always saying, "Hey, you can call me Mom anytime you want." You know, she kind of knew what was going on in my house. She understood. And I'll never forget the way she treated me. And it was always full of love. And then I went on my mission, and she was instrumental. Her and her husband, they helped financially with that mission quite a bit. I came home early from my mission. It wasn't anything that I had done to come home. It was what I hadn't done. My companion, my trainer, wasn't teaching me how to be a missionary. We'd go to a member's house and watch TV all day long, to the point that I asked the mission president to be allowed to come home. And I didn't tell him why, because I didn't want to be that person who was going to rat out somebody for not doing what they're supposed to do. You know, I look back on that now and realize that was probably a big mistake. I probably should have said something to him about that. A few months later, I had continued to study my discussions and my scriptures and whatnot, and I had met a beautiful young lady, and we were getting close. But I had called my mission president back and told him I was ready to come back out, and he recognized my voice without even said. There was no caller ID. It was before caller ID was a thing, and I just remember hearing him say, "Elder McBride, how are you doing?" And all I said is, "Good afternoon, President Taylor." His name was John Taylor, of all people. I served under President John Taylor, but not the John Taylor that was a prophet, but still a great man. And anyway, I was telling him that I was ready to come back out, and he said, "Elder McBride, I feel that you have met a young lady." And I said, "I have." And he said, "I want you to stay at home, marry this young lady, and raise missionaries to come out." And the rest, that's a story a little bit later. So through that particular era of my life, I mentioned just, that I'd had other spiritual experiences, but one thing I think it's important for everybody to know is that it's really important to make sure, if you haven't already, or the opportunity is arising as far as my grandchildren are growing, they get the opportunity to have their patriarchal blessing, I strongly recommend that they do that, because those patriarchal blessings are such an insight into your life. And mine at one point says, "Pay attention to the still small voice, for it'll be a guide and protection for you." And a few months after I had that blessing, I had borrowed my older brother's car, and I had to go take care of some stuff. And as I was leaving the place that I was taking care of, I was headed towards an intersection, and I heard a very, very profound voice. It wasn't quiet or whispery. It just had stopped the car. And that kind of freaked me out. But I proceeded. And I was closer to the intersection when the voice got a little bit louder. It said, "Stop the car now." And I looked in the mirror to make sure there was nobody behind me, freaking out that I had a voice tell me to stop the car, but I slammed on my brakes. As I did that, another car came through the intersection and would have hit me right in the driver's side of that car. Had that happened and I survived, my brother would have killed me. Probably not, but that was his baby, But I was blessed once again. So my advice to my grandchildren, or even my regular kids, if you get a prompting, listen to it. You may not know it's a prompting at the time, but it is. It's not just random thoughts. Plain and simple. A lot of people say I have random thoughts. No, you're having promptings. Pay attention to them. The greatest blessing of my life, looking back, is my affiliation with the gospel. Because of that, I was able to have a very powerful dream that was given to me about my temple marriage, that had I not been reactivated in some way, shape, or form, I don't think I would have ever had that dream. I don't think I would have ever had a patriarchal blessing where I would have been told to pay attention to the still small voice. The greatest blessing is my affiliation with the gospel.